Well, hello out there, everybody. Week 6 of high school football, and I had the Brownsburg Westfield game tonight, and it was all Brownsburg. It was first play from scrimmage for Brownsburg, a 57-yard touchdown run by Garrett Sherrill. That put Brownsburg up 7-0, and it was pretty much off to the races from there. Jake Dunn, 2 touchdown runs in the first quarter, 26 yards, 29 yards, and it really felt like Westfield just could not get anything going on offense. Just had a fourth down after it was 7-0 Brownsburg, and had a chance, 4th and 5, at about the 40-yard line of Brownsburg, and the quarterback Jackson Gilbert went to his left there, picked up about 3 yards, not enough for a first down. Turns it back over, and like I said, Brownsburg goes right back down at that point, and that was Jake Dunn who scored his first touchdown run. Converted a fourth down, then go ahead and score, and then kind of from there it just felt like Brownsburg, once it got to 14-0, it was felt like everything was downhill from there, and even knocked in a field goal that goes off the upright and then off the crossbar and goes in. Spencer Porath from 45 yards out, and then another touchdown right at the end of the first half to Cameron Edwards from Dunn for a 7-yard touchdown pass. That made it 30-0. Then, early in the third quarter, Brownsburg scores again. Dunn to Edwards from, I believe that was 41 yards. Goes ahead 37-0 at that point, and it was running clock from there. So, once you get to running clock, 8:40 left, and it went really fast after that. Westfield did get a touchdown, but that was pretty much not garbage time, but pretty much you weren't going to come back at that point down in a running clock situation like that. So really surprising result tonight. I would say Brownsburg just really played well in all facets. I mean, defensively, that was the one thing. Brownsburg scoring 37 is not that big of a surprise. Westfield scoring 7 is a surprise. I would have thought this would have been a high-scoring game. And Jay Gilbert, after the game, Westfield coach, talked to him about that some, and that's kind of what he expected. They would be able to score some on Brownsburg tonight, and they just weren't able to. So, he credited Brownsburg, said, "Hey, that's a team that deserves to be at the top of the HCC, and we don't right now." So, it's a big conference win for Brownsburg. I think a big kind of a statement win to show they can run the ball, against just about anybody, and also can throw it now. And they did a nice job again with Jake Dunn throwing the ball. Corey Smith had a great catch on the sideline there. Caden Ollinger has been a really good receiver for him. And then they got Edwards going in the passing game tonight a little bit too. So just all facets type of game for the Bulldogs. And for Westfield, I think a chance to, kind of regroup now and see, again, talking to Jake Gilbert after the game, they have Avon next week and then Fishers and Franklin Central. And, they could win all 3 of those games, and that would not be a surprise, but they, need to take something positive away out of this and that may be, maybe what it is. You take away positive is that you got beat and now you got to get back to work. But, Brownsburg has Zionsville next week at home, then at Noblesville, and then HSE at home to end the season. HSC won tonight 34-24 over Zionsville. So that they come back from their loss to Westfield last week. They lost 38-20 on the last play of the game. So they come back and win. So that HCC right now, Brownsburg 4-0, HSC's 3-1, and Westfield 3-1. Obviously, HSC will still control its chance to tie for that conference, assuming things kind of stay the way they are. If they both win going into that last week, that could be for a share of the conference title between those teams. And obviously Westfield would still have a chance there as well to be part of that mix. Other games tonight, and again, Brownsburg 37-30. Talked to Josh Thoman after the game, too, the offensive lineman. I wrote a little bit about, Brownsburg's running game with Garrett Sherrill. And then that offensive line that was relatively new this year. Thoman is a senior returning starter, but the rest of that offensive line pretty new and inexperienced to some extent has been playing really well for that team. So Wrote a little bit about that in the Insider, but yeah, some of the other games tonight. I know Clark Wade was out at the Plainfield Decatur Central game. Sounded like that was a crazy one. Decatur ended up winning, so the Mid-State continues to be. I think that was 26-23. So that's continues to be a wild conference. Just crazy games, close games, all around. And that Decatur Central wins tonight, 26-23 over Plainfield. And you can read more about that. IndyStar.com, we got a lot of our stuff up now as I'm talking here Friday night. HSC, like I said, beat Zionsville 34-24. Good win for HSC to bounce back after the loss last week. And looked like Donovan Hamilton, 225 receiving yards in that game. So really went to the air a lot in that one. Had 8 catches, 225. And at least looks like 3 touchdown catches, so huge game. Brebeuf Jesuit, one of the big scores of the night, they beat Roncalli 39-23. Brebeuf was coming off a bye week, and that seemed to help. They jumped all over Roncalli, held Roncalli to 7 points going into the fourth quarter. So that's a big win for the Braves to knock off Roncalli. Cathedral went down to Kentucky, got a really good win over Frederick Douglass team. That was a state champion last year, 28-19 in that one. Jalen Bonds, 113 yards rushing on 23 carries, and Danny O'Neill, 176 through the air. And then it looked like the defense played pretty well for Cathedral, so they get the win on a long road trip down to Lexington. Carmel beat North Central 27-6. That game was 17-0 at halftime. So Carmel wins. Fishers beats Avon without Kobe Martin tonight, 21-13. Martin should be back next week. He was out with a little bit of a shoulder injury that he suffered last week against Brownsburg. Let's see here. Some of the other bigger games of the night. We had Ben Davis beat Lawrence North, and I know that game was I think 49-14 at halftime. I'll find more on that here in a minute. Bishop Chatard beat Guerin Catholic in overtime, 13-7. Expected that would be a really close game. Didn't know it would be that close or that low scoring, but they win in overtime. Chatard does on Daniel Shaw's 1-yard touchdown run. Shaw 147 yards rushing in that game on 32 carries. That's be interested to read more about that game. On IndyStar.com. Yeah, Ben Davis, so I found it here, 62-14. So that's the final there. That was a running clock game. It was a 55-14 lead at halftime. My goodness, it was a mercy rule by that point. So I didn't expect that. That's another game where two teams at the top of the MIC playing against each other. And Ben Davis, which kind of struggled in the second half last week offensively against Warren Central, and clearly did not have any trouble this week on the offensive side of things. So New Pal beat Greenfield Central tonight, 21-14. That's a big win. And another game that had big conference ramifications in the HHC. So New Pal upends Greenfield Central at Greenfield, 21-14. So yeah, that's a big one tonight in that conference. So then we had. Let's see here. But yeah, I had Westfield, Brownsburg tonight. Expected a close game. It really wasn't. And like I said, right out of the gate, it was, Brownsburg kind of jumped out 7-0 on that long run by Sherrill up the left sideline. And, he kind of, he kind of does that to people. I mean, he'll break off long runs. He breaks tackles, and then he's out in the open. He had 156 in a touchdown on 16 carries. And he didn't play the second half. Had a stinger. He said he should be fine next week, but just wasn't at the point. At the time, it was 30-0, so no use trying to force anything at that point. But he said he should be good to go next week when Brownsburg plays again. So, but yeah, another big game. He's had 100-yard games in all of his games this season so far. Pendleton Heights beat Mount Vernon 24-10. Heritage Christian, a close game with Covenant Christian, 28-24. Looked like Heritage Christian had to come back 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They were down 24-13 in that game. So Heritage Christian was on the ropes, had to come back and win. Center Grove was looking for this one, 31-7, beat Lawrence Central. I saw that was 17-7 at halftime. So Center Grove gets it done, shuts out the Bears in the second half, and a good win there for Center Grove. Their first win over an in-state opponent, first game against an in-state opponent so far this season. Noah Coy, 10 catches for 134. Tyler Cherry, 211 passing yards, and looked like the running game worked pretty well. Also, Ryland Cook had 85 yards, and Matthew Yoder had 72 yards rushing. So that's kind of been what they've done this year. Mix it up on the ground with a few different guys. Tri-West comes back and beats Lebanon 28-21. Another good win for Tri-West in the Sagamore Conference. Thought that would be a good game. Tri-West 14-0 in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game. And Malachi Walden continues at quarterback to run wild. Had 175 rushing yards for Tri-West in that game for the Bruins. So other scores tonight, running down the list here. Cascade 49-39 beats North Putnam. Crispus Attucks was ahead by quite a bit on Phelan Academy. Danville 42-21 over Southmont, so Danville bounces back from the loss to Tri-West last week. Franklin beats Mooresville 29-26. Again, these mid-state games seem like they're all down to the wire, but Franklin wins. Franklin Central overtime win over Noblesville. I heard Noblesville was ahead there. Franklin Central comes back to win 28-21. So a good win for the Flashes. Greenwood, a wild one, another mid-state wild game, 44-41, beats Perry Meridian. So a good win for the Woodmen against a Perry team that has really been playing well here of late. Heritage beat LaPel 28-14. Milan beat Eastern Hancock 44-19. Let's see, Park Tudor rolls 62-7 over Blackhawk Christian out of Fort Wayne, a new program. Yeah, I mentioned that Pendleton Heights, that's a really good win for them, holding Mount Vernon to 10 points. So really good defensive effort there by Pendleton Heights in that one. Don't have some of these other scores in just yet. Speedway 30-0 beats Connorsville. Triton Central was leading Cardinal Ritter by a good margin. Warren Central beats Pike 23-6. Another good defensive effort. That Warren Central defense very tough. Whiteland beats Martinsville 34-22, and Yorktown over Shelbyville 42-19. That's about all that I see at this point. Again, check IndyStar.com. I'm sure by this time you hear this or read my story, there'll be everything else will be up on IndyStar.com. We'll do our players of the week and everything else. But again, I had Brownsburg tonight, 37-7 beats Westfield, and just an overall very dominant performance by the Bulldogs. And we'll see. They've got some big games coming up, including that HSC game at the end of the season. And then, of course, all of 6A gets a week off to rest for the tournament. So, again, for week 6, we'll join you next time. Thanks a lot.